Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, are we ready to enter the Caleb Douglas era? If not, is the other option a guy with a dinged up foot? We investigate next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again. And on today's episode, diving into an always interesting group in West Texas, we're talking pass catchers. We're going to take a listen to their coach, Juice Johnson, on a couple of different fronts. Some of the most interesting, I think, characters on the roster as far as potential impact players are within this group. When you think about guys like Caleb Douglas, Reggie Virgil, Coy Aiken as well. We'll get to Caleb Douglas, who I think many believe is ascending to that number one spot, but he's not there yet. So are there other alternative possibilities? I want to explore that with you. One of those including Reggie Virgil, but we've also got to talk about Reggie Virgil's foot if we're talking Reggie Virgil. So we'll get to that also. And I want to get to a question as well that I was considering with the Matador Mobster texting back and forth this week regarding a group we remember fondly, America's Finest Receivers on Sunday, the Afros once upon a time, a group that was always counted upon to be very physical, which is maybe not something you think about with a group of pass catchers, but I want to explore that angle with this group in just a moment. But let's kick it off with the aforementioned Juice Johnson, talking about what he really likes the most to this point in camp, and essentially that being what sounds like a lot of options.
The biggest thing that I'm happy with is the depth is there, right? The depth is growing. So, you got your Reggie Virgil, you got your CD, you got your Coy, you got Roy in there too, but guys that have been around here like Kelby, right? Guys like TJ, right? Tyson Turner. You're starting to see some of that depth being built, and those guys come along. And then also our young guys, man. We got some really, really good young guys. Bryson, Layton, Deaver, all right? We got some really, really young, good young guys. And Tristan Gentry. And so you start to see that depth being developed. And so from a depth chart perspective, all those guys are rotating in different spots. All those guys are working, but really excited where we are with our depth.
Chris, it does seem like in some what feels sort of recent period, feels recent to me at least, period of time, you've restored some juice, don't pardon that pun, to this group, and you credit guys like Josh Kelly certainly for doing that, but hoping you're sustaining that momentum rolling into this year with some of those options.
Yeah, there's some unknowns here, I think, but there's a lot of possibilities, and almost he's not coaching him, but I almost really want to include like Terrence Carter and John Carlos into these discussions too, because if you talk to people from like, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you talk to people like at Texas State that are familiar with Coach Leftwich's offense and all that, I mean, 90% of the time, I don't know if that number is exactly right, but it's close, but you get the point, is that he lines up the tight ends and flexes them out. They're not hand in the ground, and all that. And even if they're close to the line of scrimmage, they're still standing up and almost like as a slot receiver. So I want to make sure that I add that in there too. But you've got – I think Caleb Douglas probably hasn't gotten near the respect that he probably deserved regionally or all-conference type stuff. I mean, this is there was only one other receiver in the league that had, I think, more touchdown catches and yards last year that is returning, and that was Jalen Tyson. And I just think people kind of, I don't know whether it was just Caleb wasn't the leading receiver here or whatever, but I think the biggest questions I have to ask, I mean, it all revolves around your starters. Is Caleb ready to be a wide receiver one? And what I mean by that is consistent, without fail, going to catch everything thrown to him, going to produce weekly, going to make the easy catch, the tough catch, all that stuff? Or is he just a secondary component that's a home run threat that shows you flashes, but it's not all that, which is kind of what he was last year. Josh Kelly was more the consistent, producing every single week. And then can Reggie Virgil be a wide receiver too? And maybe those roles are reversed. Maybe it's Reggie Virgil that kind of can be the wide receiver one and the lead guy and a consistent guy. I don't know. He's never been asked to do this really. As good as he was last year, it was really about the big plays and things like that. So there's some differences here that you're going to ask these guys to do it. And because of these guys, you've moved Coy around a little bit. And there's definitely if you go look at the first 3 to 4 games last year, I mean, Barron and Coy Aiken were on the same page. I mean, it was the Coy Aiken show. One of those games, didn't he have like 2 or 3 touchdown receptions? I mean, he was really, and then it not that it tailed off, but then it morphed into some different candidates and some different guys. And you've moved Coy into the slot and all that. So it's the potential's there, the size is there. You've got some experience, certainly. And so while this is kind of a question about this team, I can see where it's really not. But I think that I just know back in the spring and summertime, internally, there were like thoughts aloud, like, are we good enough at receiver? Do we like what we have? Are we sure about what we've got, or do we need to see more? And I think there's still some of that there. Otherwise, you don't go add a guy like Roy Alexander at the end of the spring, which I think that he's a sneaky, potentially phenomenal addition for what you were looking for and what you ended up with.
Yeah, I want to circle back to Douglas and Reggie Virgil with you in just a moment, but I'm kind of curious too, if we're just talking sort of wild cards that could be added to this group, though aren't listed as a wide receiver on the roster. Didn't we just hear about, I can't remember if it was Coach Leftwich or possibly Coach McGuire or both, talking about Jacoby Williams factoring in, I think, in the slot as well. So there's some different type of wrenches, I guess, they're going to throw at some of this stuff to try and get really, I guess, Chris, just guys who are talented with the ball in their hands somewhere on the field. Maybe kind of inventive or creative in some ways, but they're trying their best, I think, to just do that with some of them.
I think that Terrence Carter, Roy Alexander, and Jacoby Williams are kind of in their own category. I may have missed somebody, but I think those 3 guys are very versatile, very Swiss Army knife-ish, very like, let's do some different things with them. Let's hand it to them, throw it to them. Let's line them up here. Let's run some wildcat. Let's motion. I don't know, but those 3 I believe are different than everybody else from that standpoint. In that, let's manufacture touches too, and somebody there may lead that category over the other. But I think that those 3 guys are potentially in the. Because I know Carter is going to be kind of all over the place. Roy Alexander even said at Media Day, yeah, I've run some Wildcat before, and he kind of smiles, is like, you might see that here. File it away. And then Jacoby Williams, they're already telling you that putting him in the slot, and this is partly why when we talked about running backs recently, we didn't really get into like him being the primary ball carrier, like the 20 to 25 carries a game guy that you're going to major in, because he can do some other things. He's also going to be factored into the return game as well. He's quickly becoming one of the more important cogs in your offense and really special teams, I guess, just because of all the different things that he can do. But yeah, so I think that's well stated on your the point that you make. And the other thing I wonder, because he talks about the depth there, I just wonder of these of Valson, West, Jones, Stone, Deaver, Morgan. I may have forgotten somebody, but like which of these guys like emerge into the, who's the neck after the starters. And like, I'm not talking about Alexander because he automatically will, but like which of those guys, because they're all kind of in this either brand new or they've been here for the spring, or this is like their second year, but haven't, Micah Hudson as well. Right. I mean, where do all they, like, how could you forget that, Chris? Hello. You're talking about potential backups. What about the 5-star guy that is back on campus? Which of those guys like emerge and can be relied on, and that you hear them talking about regularly, that we start to see playing time regularly?
I think that suggests the under the radar plan is working very, very well. So I'm not mad that Micah Hudson was not the most prominent among those next names that we immediately mentioned. But yeah, it's about time for somebody, I guess, from that group, and certainly those who have spent a little more time on campus than some that just got here would be in this category. But it's about time. I think there's a player or two maybe that emerges a little bit more consistently. We've heard about some of these names and been here or there. Who was it? I think it was maybe Valson, or that he had, was it one or maybe multiple, like big onside kick fields or catches or whatever. I don't know, but they've been trusted in some situations here or there, but really seeing them break through in a consistent way from a pass catching standpoint would be nice. And I think you're going to need some of that as we circle back to the other end of the depth chart, that being the very top of it. I know from I think mostly de facto standpoint, or just kind of formality standpoint, you hit the offseason thinking Caleb Douglas is leading this group. This is wide receiver one, or at least this is the plan. But like you already alluded to, Chris, this is going to take or require a next step being taken, because he was not in this category last year. Josh Kelly was obviously the guy you look at in that category. First, today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You're going to love the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year. I want to talk about what that process looks like for Caleb Douglas, but first let's go back to Juice Johnson and take a listen to him talking about Douglas.
He's not a pro yet, but we're saying be pro ready. And CD has worked his way into being pro ready. He has a process. He sticks to his process. He's process oriented. He takes it day by day. He takes his recovery serious. All the things before we ever get to practice, and we talk about team wise, about being a pro and being prepared and from a recovery perspective and just being available to practice. He's been knocking that out the park. So all of his preparation stuff has afforded him the opportunity to be set up to have a really great year.
Looking to continue the trend upwards, because he did do that within the season last year. That's encouraging, but can he take the next and I guess biggest step to become really the go-to guy?
Because consistency, when it's good, is the hardest thing to achieve for players. You show flashes get people fired. That's your potential and all that. And like, it's like, oh man, he's so, and I mean, right. This is what coaches flirt with. It's the most difficult thing to be consistently good, do it week in and week out. And I thought Josh Kelly provided a great example of that last year, to where it's like, we all kind of know where the ball's going. We know that it's third down, and he just still got open, still caught it, still moved the chains, consistent. That's why he's on the training camp roster for the Dallas Cowboys. It's funny too, because Juice talked about being a pro. As an aside, this is a great approach to recruiting, because Joey has really talked like this since he got here. And it's probably different to a group of transfers that are into their last year or have a couple of years left, because there's always a point in a player's career, where they're like, man, I've got so many years left. I may not pay attention in this meeting, or I'm going to stay up too late tonight. I'm not gonna eat like they're telling me. It's like a laziness, or I don't really have to do all that yet. But there's always a point in each guy's career, if they do realistically, they're playing and they have hopes about maximizing their junior and senior year or playing past that they really listen to the be a pro type stuff. And I just remember talking to Tyler Owens 2 years ago. We remember him, and man, did he look the part. The first year he got here, he didn't really say any of these things, but I just remember before his senior year when he was here, he was like, yeah, I've been really cognizant of how much sleep I'm getting and how much, right? And I wonder if Caleb Douglas has kind of entered into this phase of when he gets here last year, it's like, man, I got 3 years to play here. And he's 1 year under his belt. He could theoretically leave after this year if he has the kind of year that he would hope. He's got the measurables and all that. But it's because those scouts want to know that too. How seriously does he take this? Because all these guys, large in part, have been able to rely on their talent and get away with it at the high school level and even getting on a college roster. But it's a pyramid theory. Like who takes it serious enough to like live it, eat right, sleep right, train right, get my body feeling good after a tough practice so I'm good to go for the next day so there's no drop off and I can be consistent. And I think that it's interesting that Juice talks about him because I'm guessing that Caleb has now entered into this phase of his junior season now, and there's some expectations, and you're going to be – and so it's important that he's treating it like a pro. The high school athlete just doesn't realize what the college athlete does, and then I don't think that the college athlete really understands how professional goes. There's levels to this. And
no doubt.
Right? Yeah. And so I think that's important to hear because this is part of the consistency aspect. And I'm not saying Caleb did or didn't do anything different last year, but there's just there's a point where they graduate into this, okay, I can see the end here at this place, at this level. I better maximize it, and this is all that it's going to take. And that's the beauty of the Womble and what they've put together over there. Everything is there to help you do this and to squeeze as much out of you as they can.
I viewed Caleb last year as a guy who was a big play threat, could obviously get behind the defense, has some size to him and some length obviously as well. But early on, I thought, is he someone can be counted on for some 50-50 balls on a regular basis to go his way or to make some catches whenever you are down the field in a big play type of setting. And early it was hit or miss, I thought. As the season went on, I think that's an area that you actually did see more consistency, is that he was securing some of that. How did you view his profile as a player last year? Because really the thing I'm not saying, I'm wondering about this year is, can he be a go-to third down or dirty third, whatever you said yesterday, type of receiver, which Josh Kelly was?
I think when we first really saw Caleb Douglas's potential pay dividends was at the game in Tucson against Arizona. He had a couple of big time catches there, and he had Tacario Davis guarding him. And I think Tacario Davis has since transferred out, but that's an NFL corner. That's going to be somebody that plays at the next level. And I think Caleb beat him consistently that night on large in part 50-50 balls. And remember, I think it was CJ Baskerville that intercepted that pass like late in the second quarter. Like it was like Noah Fafita was trying to throw the ball away and he left it too far in bounds, and like Baskerville just runs over there to the corner of the end zone, gets a foot down, and it's like, but then you're kind of pinned down, and there wasn't much time left. And Kitley calls this bomb, and they hit it to Caleb Douglas, and you flip the field almost instantly, and you get 3 points right before the end of the half. Turns out those were pretty big points, but that's kind of what turned that game around, is that ability to hit Caleb on a 50-50 ball. And if you're really a good at the 50-50 ball, the quarterback and the receiver will feel like that's a 80-20 ball. That's really where you need to be. Confidence, trust, because you can make a quarterback look good if you're not going to go up and come down with it, or you're not going to fight for it. And it's up to the quarterback to, large in part, try to put that to where only his guy can get it too. But again, when you got pressure and all that, it's hard sometimes. But I go back to the Liberty Bowl too. There was some drops there by Caleb. You know, there was some opportunities there for some big plays that he didn't haul in. So this is why all the potential is there. He could be an all-conference guy. He's that good. But I think you touched on it. Like when we need it, man, and we don't have to hit the home run, and we're not in between the 20s, and it's 3rd and 7. when we run something to the sideline or whatever, I mean, you hauling those in 95 to 98% of the time. Yeah. That's
No
the
big
question,
deal, right?
right? And that's those are going to be important. As we go through the season, that they're going to be some on the road. And Barron's got his own deal. The offensive line's got his own deal. But can your guys produce consistently? And I think Caleb will be at the head of the list being asked to do that.
I want to ask you before we get out of here, if it is not an answer of Caleb Douglas to the question of who fills the role of Josh Kelly. I want to ask you before we get out of here, if it is not an answer of Caleb Douglas to the question of who fills the role of Josh Kelly, is it possibly a newcomer we're talking about in Reggie Virgil? I feel like if I bring up Reggie Virgil, I need to at least give this thought to the audience from Juice Johnson, for those who have been trying to keep up, obviously, from afar with some of the lingering injury issues here where there was a little bit of this for Virgil coming out of the spring. And Coach Johnson did speak on his status now as we're making our way through fall camp. Here's Juice Johnson.
Reggie's looking great. Yeah, he's looking great. There's no lingering effects, anything that I can tell from the foot. I mean, he's hitting. You put those MPHs up there after practice of how fast he's running, and he's rolling out the football, making some tremendous catches. So I haven't seen any lingering effects from his foot. He's out there rolling and ready.
I don't want to shortchange any other options, but if it's not a Douglas at the top of the list, could we be maybe talking about Virgil in this kind of context?
I get the sense that your big play threats are 1 and 1A, obviously with Caleb and Reggie. I'm not even sure that, back on what we were just talking about, I'm not even sure that you need one of these two guys to be the third down guy, because I'm going to pivot here in a second. But Reggie and Caleb could theoretically be kind of like your play action was last year, where some of what they bring plays off to the other. The threat. Yeah, the threat of it, and one guy being on one side really helps the other guy, and you can't really pick and choose like how where are you moving your safety? Where is that? Motion kind of moves the defense a little bit. Okay, that means we got 1-on-1 over here. Like, pick your poison, because they both can do it. I think that your yards per reception average could be up quite a bit this year because of what you've got on the outside, if they can stay healthy and be productive. And then it's up to Barron to – but on the third down thing, I really think that's a Coy Aiken, Terrence Carter role. I think that's where you're going to lean on some of those, like the over the middle, the underneath. Not that you can't get some of these things from Reggie or Caleb, but I would venture a guess that I'd probably put Coy Aiken and then Terrence Carter as 1 and 1A as far as like your, underneath, got to have it, like sure-handed, those kinds of things, the way we were kind of. So again, this is a different, because remember last year it was Caleb and Coy outside, and it was Josh in the middle. And so maybe, Coy replaces Josh, which would be tough to do it at the level that he did. But I think what you may ask Reggie to do, it may be better than what Coy could do, but Coy may be better suited for the slot. But it's all chess pieces. It's all chess pieces. And there are people that will tell you that Terrence Carter is going to be like the second or third leading receiver on this team. But what makes me push back on that is not push back, but like, okay, well, who's first? Then if he is second, then who's third? Because I think that I've given you – we're talking 4 names here that I think are – and so I just don't know what this looks like yet. But I think TC is a problem, but I think Coy has just got such a great chemistry with what Barron does, and they've known each other, and they hit the ground running last year. So Pine Bluff, Kent State, Oregon State, at least early on, you might want to cover Coy. Cowboy Coy is probably getting the ball early and often early on the year, because there's a comfort level there with those two.
Man, and all these exciting thoughts about down the field possibilities would be for naught if I wasn't as excited or more about maybe some time offered by a revamped offensive line. As you said already, Morton's got his part to do. The O-line's got their part to do, but golly, you think about the explosiveness that's potentially there for Tech with this pass catching group. Would have been a great envy just to have maybe one of those guys that we mentioned, whether, somebody like Douglas or Virgil, and some of these other years where we're just begging to get out of this 15 play drive mode that you were constantly stuck in, right?
You are. It's time to graduate from a lot, right? You're trying to graduate into the upper tier of the league and the conference title, conversation, all that stuff, being in Arlington and all that. But I mean, based on the conversation we had with the running game, it's like this is the same. I mean, you had some, but because your O-line can't hold up long enough, you don't have enough team speed. This isn't a problem anymore. And if you can give a little time to protect, then you should have the pieces on the outside, and it's all playing off of each other. The running backs are faster, because Juice will be the first one to tell you. He's like, I got a room full of guys that can really run, and I think it's just a lot of potential there, and some of it unrealized here. But I'm also fascinated to see which one of these young guys kind of pushes in. Is that Micah? Is that and I'll tell you, like, who's a good-looking kid, and you heard Juice mention him, but like Bryson Jones, the 6'3" kid out of Frisco, he's going to be the next outside guy that looks a lot like Caleb and Reggie. It can really run. Leighton Stone, I think his name has been mentioned a lot. He's a big kid that can run.
Yeah, Jones mentioned as like the sort of the protege or the Douglas Jr. right now, as far as their relationship and how much they are similar, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, because it's a carbon copy. It's like big brother, little brother, the way that their measurables are and all that stuff. And so you hear that Cheto Feely on the defensive side is following around Romello Height, and he's following around David Bailey, asking all the questions, and they both are like, he's going to be really good. This is how Caleb talked about Bryson Jones. So yeah, I don't want to see too much of Bryson Jones yet because he just got here and he's a younger kid, and that's Caleb's deal. But it's fun to hear about the younger guys that are looking up to some of these older established guys and learning how to do it.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it could be the Douglas era for whatever period of time. He's got that opportunity, but clearly some other options that are possibilities as well. And while we're talking about all this explosiveness, before I get out of here, Chris, when we talk about getting down the field and speed and all those exciting, say, lightning components, I'm also wondering about a little thunder as well. I was actually texting with one of our mobsters, Richard, this week about a physical angle to this group, because it used to be the pride of the pass catchers, I think, their ability to be physical and block and in whatever other ways, that shows up. But you think they got that angle to their personality among this group this year? Because I do believe, even though you called on the tight ends for some of this also a season ago, I think you did sort of have this going for you a season ago.
This is the hardest part, I think, of a receivers coach, to get kids that, one, can physically do it, and two, that will buy into this aspect of the position that they play. It's kind of like the running back with like pass protection. Yeah, everybody wants to see him carry the ball, but what are you doing when the ball's not going to you? Can you pick up that linebacker, whatever? And Juice is really big on no block, no rock.
Fair enough.
I mean, that's pretty much a culture instilled, like, fellas, you look pretty, you can run this route, you got great hands, I see you on the jugs machine after the practice is going, all that, but we're trying to run a screen or we're trying to run whatever. If you can't do that and do it well and be a plus out there, then it's just not going to work. And the NFL wants to see this too now.
Yeah,
I mean, the NFL asks. I mean, some of those big time receivers in the NFL are they can handle their business, and that's what the NFL wants to see. That's just part of it. So,
no rock. All right, put it on a shirt.
You got it.
Yeah, and you got to love if a screen or horizontal pass play doesn't work, and we want to fire the offensive coordinator. Meanwhile, there's two receivers getting blown up that essentially made that play call a good one or a bad one based on what they did. But for some reason, I don't ever remember to include them whenever I'm getting mad at an OC. That's my bad, guys. I'll work on that this season. All right, Chris, appreciate your time as always, man. Another sunny, rosy, optimistic conversation. We're 0-0. Nothing can hurt us right now. And looking forward to seeing you for the next one, man.
Yeah, you got it, man. Looking forward to it. Keep hope alive, everybody. And talk to you next time. Couple weeks out. Couple weeks.
Right. That's right. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Appreciate the everydayers, of course, for always being out there in the Matador Mob as well. Hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.